Hi, thanks. So I'm Christine Farian, and my talk today is about making smart objects to reduce anxiety. I'm a PhD student at the moment at Queen Mary, and this is part of my research. So when I knew I was doing the talk, I thought, okay, I need to go through all my notes, see what I've done. I'm a PhD student, I'm an academic. I need to give you guys a whole lot of facts, a whole lot of figures. Figures like this guy here, for example. He, very early adopter, trying to get the wearable thing happening. I think that's a good look. And of course, I would need to mention very impressive papers about what I'm studying, because you're supposed to do that. But actually, that's maybe not a talk that I would want to listen to, especially for half an hour. Like, that's a long time to be kind of bombarded with that type of thing. So I thought, what's the talk I would actually really like to sit through? And then I remembered this is a technology conference, and so I thought I'm going to have to think about how I can get across to you guys the technology that I'm working with. So I'm talking about anxiety, which is things like, why would you have any anxiety? If you're stood up here, if anyone would like to join me, I'm sure you would experience a little bit of anxiety. There's many reasons. For me, I'm looking into anxiety about when we forget things. Has anyone here ever forgotten anything? Ever? Okay. Yeah, of course. Right, and a lot of people, when you kind of ask them what happens when you have forgotten something, they feel pretty bad about it. And sometimes people get quite affected by this and do feel quite anxious. A lot of us have different methods that we use to try and make sure we don't forget things. Things like to-do lists, obviously, are pretty common. A lot of sticky notes around my house, I can tell you, stick them on my kids. Don't forget this one, that kind of thing. Also, I've heard of people who put their notes on shopping bags, for example. So that way, when they go shopping, they remember the bags. Where's my list? It's on my bag. Great. A lot of people pack their items and leave them by the front door. So you actually have to trip over your items before you can get outside of your house. Has anyone got any other things that they do, or does anyone do similar things like that? They want to, yeah? Very good. Yeah, exactly. So again, putting those things right where you see them. Yeah. Okay, so that's part of anxiety, but I'm a geek. So I'm going to have to go into that in just a minute, because that's sort of like the best bit. So that led me to wonder, being quite curious, how can I make a smart device to hopefully try and reduce that anxiety when we do forget those things? Even if I have tripped on them as I'm going out the door, I still do forget things. So I thought I'm going to take some small steps looking into this. What can I realize? Am I the only one who forgets things? Am I the only one who feels bad? This is how I feel. Is it just me who feels this way? This poor sad bear. So it's not really just me, thank goodness. Respondents reported that forgetfulness changed their lives, produced worries. So things were changing their lives over the course of many years. So I wanted to ask other people. I wanted to find out exactly how people felt. And when I put out some questionnaires, a lot of people replied with a lot of information. There's lots. This is just some of it. But people felt pretty passionate about this. People definitely were affected by this anxiety that they felt. They felt stupid. They felt sometimes shameful if someone was relying on their ability to remember something. Inadequate. It annoys me. I don't like feeling like I'm not in control of what's going on up there. It's another very common one. People were worried they were getting disease, worried something was going wrong. Foolish. Disappointed with myself. Panicked, angry, stressed. Stupid, dumb, annoyed at myself, even angry. So how often did they forget things? They were forgetting things quite often. So when I was doing the study, I was asking the general population. The only criteria was that they did not have any medically diagnosed reasons for this forgetfulness. We frequently forget items that we need, and we also waste time checking things. Checking, did we pack it? Do I still have it? Is it with me? So, can we design a smart device? Maybe. I'm going to have a go. So, NeuroPage, they had a go. This is what they came up with. It's a buzzer system, so you could send little notes to remind for things like appointments missed, other things that they need to check up, birthdays, so important things, but it's mostly for a day-to-day use. So you'd have a carer or someone else in your life that would be able to give you messages. Home Basic, the not-so-basic system. This thing is amazing. It's pretty much all over the house. So it's a system where there's video, items in the home are tagged with sensors, and everything is kind of set on reminders and triggers. It's a very complex thing for daily tasks. This thing is basically kind of a smartphone could easily replace this. It's just a huge device. There's a lot of huge devices that take a lot of time to learn. And from the studies, people who do think they're forgetful, they find it hard to learn new practices. They find it hard to get to grips and remember how to use these devices. They're too complicated. SenseCam was a Microsoft research project. So you'd wear a camera around your neck and set it if you were going to an event, and it would snap pictures for you all day long. And the idea is when you got home, you would watch back all the pictures, and if you did this once or twice, you would remember that event a lot more clearly. That Google, oh, you can't really see it with this light, but so Google Glass, two chaps wearing Google Glass, which I thought, this is going to be a great idea. Google Glass, everybody's going to love this. It's right in front of your face. How can you forget anything? I'm going to have messages blaring. But then, of course, that also happened. And people didn't really like Google Glass. And people don't want to wear a Google Glass. And it's too expensive. And a lot of things just didn't quite happen. So when signs like this start going up, you know there might be some kind of, I don't want to say a PR issue, but that's definitely not going to happen. And also, most current memory aids do require someone to have an active effort. You have to remember to use the device. Has anyone ever, set yourself a task list on your phone and then not actually check that list? Or you set the list and you check it a couple weeks later, oh, I forgot that task is on that task list. And also, there's so many, like thousands, and I've tried a lot of these, and then I put my tasks in one of them, and I'll open that one, but my other tasks were in my other one, or maybe I've shared a task list with other people who have their tasks. It's kind of a complicated thing. So there's a lot of challenges. Some of the other challenges to face if you're going to make a smart device, is it going to be easy to use? I'm still confused about this one. So I went through the presentation with my son, and he thinks I'm an idiot. Mom, obviously the one on the right is up. That's that. But I still don't understand. If that one's up, but the arrow next to it is going down, or I don't know. That one just doesn't work for me. So you need to make something that's easy to use. You also need something that's fit for purpose. So it needs to do the job that you're saying it's going to do. Are spare parts going to be easily obtainable and expensive? And these are things for people who have forgetfulness or memory issues who do need a device. These are things they need to know about. Does it need servicing? That photo's just for me. I love that photo. Does it need servicing? And of course, is it safe? You have to make a safe device. That actually was not me. But I think it'll work. It's fine. Another thing is Style Universe. So kind of like what we saw with Google Glass, and there's so many different wearable watches and things like that out right now. Does it fit with someone's style universe? Are they going to use this item? Because if they don't like it, or for example, have you ever seen something on sale and bought it because it was on sale? But actually, if it wasn't on sale, you would have never bought it. You've never worn it, and there's no reason why you should have it. So it's got to fit in with that person's style universe. It has to be something they want to wear, they want to show people they're wearing it, they're happy to have. A lot of the devices I've looked at are just huge, bulky devices that the people who have to wear them because they do have a medical condition, they don't like wearing them. They feel embarrassed, and even that makes them more anxious because they're so aware what they're wearing. And then another issue, of course, is battery and charging. How do you get good battery life into these devices? So back to the geek side. So for me, I knew I liked making, well, this looks like a mess. It's really not. Well, it actually is. So I wanted to use some of these skills, make some kind of object, and now I'm going to show you why, basically, I'm being called the bag lady. So this is my first bag. So this was a prototype I made that would just hopefully establish if there was any need for an everyday object. So I decided a bag would be a good everyday object. Most people carry bags. A few of you have bags here. Actually, does anyone not have a bag here today? Okay, a couple of people. I got something for you in a minute. So this is my first prototype that I was sort of showing people and just getting general advice. And most people knew someone who either could use a bag, clearly not this one, it's in its own style universe. It was just a hack to see if it would work. But that kind of led me on to think more and more about what could I make that would work for people. And then I saw a talk at an Augmented Human conference, and the keynote speaker said, use them or do something else. And it absolutely made me think, you're totally right. If you make something or have the idea to make something, unless you yourself are using that item every day and getting that constant feedback, why would you expect anyone else to use it? And the guy who said that was wearing this stuff while he was working on prototypes. So I figured if he can walk around with that stuff all over his face, I think a bag will be fine. So it motivated me to make my first proper prototype, which was this message bag. So it is a bag with sensors that communicates what's inside to hopefully stop people from constantly checking, do I have this item? Now, I was very excited because it's got lights on it, and it's really pretty. So I decided 5 lights would be for objects, and 5 would be for, there's tags on the back, for things that I might need to buy or things that I didn't want to forget to do. But it's just too complex. There's too many lights. It's a case of which light is for which item. And although it's my favorite bag and I love it, it's too much for people who aren't as geeky as myself. So I looked at designing other prototypes. So this is a man-style messenger bag, by the way. And it only has 5 items. And when talking with people, 5 items seemed to be a reasonable amount. And most people had 5 essential items, such as, what are your essential items? Phone charger. Who said that? That's great. Yeah, and yeah, any other? Keys. I know who's back to rob later. Yeah, so most people, it's wallets, it's keys, phones, phone chargers. There is really about 5 items that are pretty essential. So then I designed some prototypes that I was trying to think in more terms of fashion items as well for some of the different testers. And then I also looked at making smaller, more portable versions. Again, kind of thinking of that style universe thing. So it's really hard to design a perfect bag. Everyone has certain things that they need for their own bag. So the idea was that you could just clip that on and put it onto any bag. And then this is another similar style one. Oh, it's hard to see, but the battery pack was just very large and heavy. So again, learning from this isn't going to work for these reasons, redeveloping. So some of the things some of the testers said were, yay, I'm not spending an extra 10 minutes every day looking if I've packed something or not. And that for me was awesome. So already there was something that made her go, oh yeah, okay, I don't need to constantly check. Oh, I was ready for something really complex and complicated. I was ready to ask questions to explain it more, but it's relatively straightforward, isn't it? Which again was an absolute goal, because all these devices I was looking at was just way too complicated, required way too much to learn, and also if they didn't use it in a week, to remember how to use it. So relearning. So having it simple was another goal. I know a lot of people who could use this. My husband forgets everything, but he wouldn't use a bag. Can you make him a belt or something that connects with his wallets and keys? I'm going to have a go at that later. So some of the hardware, it's a relatively straightforward, simple system. It's just a circuit board, lights, a little piezo sound piece, vibrating motor for a bit of haptic feedback, RFID reader and tags, and a battery charger. So all the bags just have a little reader inside them, so then you can tag your items, and I'll go through a demo in a second. You can tag your items, and you check them in or out of the bag. So just to go a little bit into the research, the bags are very much for people who don't have medically diagnosed forgetfulness. So this isn't for Alzheimer's, brain injury, or things like that. So for me, I was trying to address a problem where I myself was finding I was forgetting a lot of things. And I know a lot of people have said to me that they feel they don't know if it's because of the constant phone messages, the constant things that they're thinking about. People feel really busy. People are really busy. So the idea was that you'd be able to use some kind of item that will just reduce that constant need for checking, that constant need for worrying about something else. Some of the other things people have asked for example, is actually a more complex system, things like for ski bags or holiday bags. So you could maybe tag holiday items and then use that to check that you have it, because they were saying in a massive ski or sports bag, they have a lot of items and they don't want to constantly check for items they don't pack very often. Another thing was families were saying that as a family, they quite often take kids to and from different areas, and they have one bag for this set of after-school activities, another bag for that set. And so they would like different tagging systems on different bags. So again, how could something like that be addressed? So there seemed to be a lot of different applications for this. Another field that I was possibly looking at is some people were suggesting what effects would it have on someone with OCD, for example, who does perhaps constantly check, which I thought was interesting. I don't know if that would make it worse or make it better. I don't know. Worse. Really? Yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. You might be right. So also another thing that I discovered when I was testing them is my initial intention was as you scanned the item, the lights would go off. But a lot of the testers liked that there was some kind of technology on their bag, and they were wanting to keep the lights on. So the battery was used even more than I anticipated, so that was another thing just to figure out. But the way the system works is you can set it to either. I still prefer them being off. Okay, so I've brought along a bag that I was just going to do a very, quick demo, if that's okay, just to show you. So this is just one of the bags. So this is a current version that I'm working on. And the tags are very small, so you can put them on things like keys that most of us, I think almost everyone said keys because, yeah, I forget my keys and it's a bad thing. Although there's a weird ladder outside my building so I could climb the building, but I don't think that's a good idea. And then there's these card-shaped ones as well, which people have used to stick in the back of a wallet, for example, or a book, something like that. And there's also sticker ones. There's small ones that you can sew, little buttons that you can sew onto sweats or whatever it is you need. And then it's a system, I don't know if you'll be able to hear that, but it will tag the item in or out when you go near the sensor, and the light will go on or off depending on if you're putting the item in your bag or not. And hopefully, the idea was there's really no learning curve. It's just a case of putting the item in or taking it out again. So some of the other systems I looked at, the reader would be in the top. So as you physically put it in the bag, it even eliminates the necessity of scanning. But again, that's had mixed feedback because some people they liked the reassurance that they knew they were scanning it in. Others didn't. But they felt they could trust the system a little more, which is very important. So that's this one. And just to briefly, well, we've got time, but I'm aware it's lunch. So, and this is one of the, so this is a smaller, for the belt guy. Basically, it's the same system, but again, you can recharge it. It's got a little charging port. Same thing, same tags. And you would hold it up to the area, and the light would either be on or be off. But this particular design came about because I don't know if anyone here has kids, but they have to pack a lot of books for school every day, a lot of homework books and things like that. And so my son actually suggested that we could put stickers in the back of, well, I told him I would force him to, but you put stickers in the back of the books he needs for school. And then this could go inside his backpack, for example. And on these white areas, you can write down which book he needed, for example, for that day. So he could write down, chemistry, whatever. And then he would just scan that in, either using the card one or the sticker versions. Okay, so this is just to show some of the, these are some of the components that goes into a system like this. And it does depend on the system. Earlier prototypes, I used off-the-shelf components that you can buy these anywhere now. I'm sure half of you probably own all this stuff. Or maybe you don't, maybe it's just me. Now I do make my own circuit boards, but only because I'm trying to refine the system and get it as efficient as possible. But absolutely you can get all these items and build one yourself, if you like. And so I will say thank you. And also, I'm still completing a study. So if anyone is interested, please send me an email. I need a couple more testers. So that would be fantastic. All right, any questions? Thank you.